And just like that, spooky season has come to a close. But let's go ahead and officially say goodnight by talking about all those things I read in October. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another monthly wrap-up, this time for October of 2023. We hardly knew ye. It just seems like it goes by so fast every single year, right? Well, guys, we did have another successful spooky season. Spooky season is in the books, and we are going to kind of talk about everything that I read, what the content that I made, all that stuff. And we're going to pick my book of the month, guys. But we're going to begin, like usual, by talking about what I read in the month of October. Now, I read 6 novels and I read 1 manga. And I started 2 other books, but I don't really want to count those because those were my November reads. That was I started Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff because I was lucky enough to receive an advanced reader copy of that. I can't really talk about it yet because I don't have any idea about the embargo stuff. I'll address that later this week. And I began Fool's Assassin. That's book number 1 of the Fitz and the Fool trilogy. And I'm already at about the halfway point, guys. I'm liking it quite a bit. I'm feeling very, very optimistic about this new and last trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings. Let's talk about the sequel. Well, first, I did 1 manga. That was just the volume number 14, I think, of One Piece. Kind of got pushed aside this month just because of a multitude of things. Obviously, I wanted to make sure I finished on my spooky season reads. And then that advanced reader copy showed up, and I was very, very excited about it, and that kind of took priority. But I'll try to get back on that sometime this month. But as for my 6 spooky season novels that I did read, I started with Last Days by Adam Neville. Wasn't quite what I was hoping for. It started off good, and then after a while, it just seemed like, wow, this is really just a book of some guy interviewing people about this event that supposedly happened. And you're just getting different people's take on it. And then when you tried to feel like it kind of got scary at the end, and it just didn't click. It didn't really hit for me. So first impression, not so great on Adam Neville, but I've had a lot of people who are fans of Adam Neville that said they were really, really upset that I chose that one to start with his books, because they said that one, Last Days, is actually divisive among the Adam Neville fans. So they all want me to do No One Gets Out Alive next, and I think that probably will be. If it's not that, it's going to be The Ritual. One or the other, but I'm just saying that don't let the fact that that one was kind of a miss for me be the reason that you're worried that I don't go back to Adam Neville. I will be going back to Adam Neville. I've got like 9 of the guy's books. So I'm going to try again without a doubt. Then I moved on to They Thirst by Robert McCammon. As you guys know, I can't talk about Mr. McCammon without talking about the greatness that is Swan Song or Boy's Life. I know this. And the thing is, that's probably most of his fans 1 and 2. Flip them. That's going to be their favorite 2 books that he's done. At least probably ones that read that view this channel. And it's hard not to bring them up because they're so great. But the thing is, I started with those, and I feel like everything since has been kind of a letdown. Now, They Thirst, I liked it better than Wolf's Hour, but still just something that just wasn't quite right. I feel like he's still an amazing character writer. I really like the way that he writes characters. Really, really good at just, slice of life, nothing going on. Just kind of talk about these characters and what makes these characters different. Their little idiosyncrasies and things that make them unique from each other. And he differentiates his characters really, really great, I think. Problem with this one is he didn't really have like a main core of characters. Like you look at Swan Song, and he had dozens and dozens of characters in that, but he had like 4 or 5 main ones. These are like the big heavy hitters. I didn't feel like this had that. Like Andy was the main character, and then we had a bunch of fodder, for the vampires to either be turned or to be food. And it just, I don't know. Something never really clicked. I don't regret reading it and anything like that, but it's a distant third out of the 4 Robert McCammon books I've read so far. But I will be starting with Speaks a Nightbird in December, so Matthew Corbett is apparently up there on the same tier with Swan Song and Boy's Life, according to most of the McCammon fans that I have talked to. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. If you guys are into 80s nostalgia horror, and if you've watched Stranger Things, I'm pretty sure you probably are. You might have had a little bit of overexposure at this point, oversaturation, I think maybe to that little subgenre. But you say you're around my age and you grew up in the 80s, I think that's going to be a book that you enjoy quite a bit. Little Heaven by Nick Cutter. Now, guys, I did The Troop last year for spooky season, and I think it was my book of the month for last October. So is this going to be a repeat shit? Well, we're about to find out. But Little Heaven, I liked a lot. Felt like the only place it went wrong is towards the second half of the book. It started to get away from that main trio. I like that main trio of mercenaries that you were kind of following the first half. You get their backstory and all that stuff. It's really good, and I feel like it's starting with us, in the present day. And most books like that, where it flips back and forth between the past and present, I hate it because I feel like I know nothing happened to them in the past because you're dealing with them in the present. Well, that's not always the case, and I usually don't like one of those. I liked them both in this one. So the only thing I didn't like is he kind of got away and started shifting some of the POV chapters over to some other characters I wasn't really that invested in because I felt like he built those three up. That really be my only complaint. The ending's going to be a little divisive. I think all horror has divisive endings just because you don't, it's either it's too happy, it's too sad, or it's too ambiguous. There's never really a happy ending when it comes to horror, as according to readers. But with that one, I think it just kind of depends on what you were hoping for with it. But again, a very, very good follow-up to the Troop. I didn't like it quite as much as the Troop, obviously, but I did really like it a lot and enough to read The Deep sometimes next year. So Nick Cutter, I think, is going to be a horror mainstay in my lineup here. The Ruins by Scott Smith. This is one I've been kicking down the road for a long, long time. I remember when the movie came out and I saw it said based on the best-selling novel. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll read the book first. It's been like 15 years since that movie came out. So I was like, whoops, because kind of really forgot about it until I was talking to Rachel over at Shades of Orange, and I saw it on her back shelf. I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. So I want to make sure I got to it this year. Body horror to the extreme, guys. There's some really, really, really grotesque stuff in that book. And I've had other people be like, oh, I didn't think it was that bad. Like, just because I say that something is disturbing or queasy-inducing doesn't mean that I can't handle it. I'm just saying, really what I was saying in that weekly update video was my wife had wanted to watch the movie, and my wife really does not a big fan of gore. And I was like, well, let me watch the movie first and see if it's quite as intense as the book is, because I think it might really bother her. I can handle it, guys. I know a lot of people have been like, wow, are you like a wimp or something? It's nothing like that. But there was some disturbing stuff in that book, for sure, and I think it did what it was supposed to do. I actually applaud him for the ballsy ending that he had in that one because, it's not a happy story. Make sure that you are actually in a good place when you are reading that one because it might make you spiral into a little bit of a depression. And lastly, A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. So 2 demonic possession stories this month, and I liked both of them. A Head Full of Ghosts, I feel like, amazing book. If you just cut out those blog entry parts, I did talk about that in a separate review and said why I still think this is a really, really great read. But, I think that those blog entries are going to be divisive because some people really like them and a lot of people just despise them like I do, but they still really enjoy the book. So the main narrative of that book, really, really good. And out of these 6 books I read, guys, without a doubt, the best ending was A Head Full of Ghosts. It was really, really awesome. But again, endings when it comes to horror books are always just going to kind of depend on the reader. So there we go, guys. Those are my 6 spooky season reads, and only one can be my book of the month. What's it going to be? Well, I'm going to be honest. You can probably tell from those descriptions, Last Days and Day Thirst were the only ones that weren't in consideration. Again, I don't regret reading them, but they're not in the same league with these other 4 here. I was really, really close with this, guys. My Best Friend's Exorcism, The Ruins, Little Heaven, and A Head Full of Ghosts were all very, very close, guys. But I decided to go with My Best Friend's Exorcism. And I think that this, guys, is just, I'm the target demographic. He's definitely writing. It's one of those things where, like, you don't have to be grown up in the 80s, to enjoy Stranger Things. Same with this. You don't have to have grown up in the 80s to really enjoy this. But I think if you did, it's going to hit all that much more hard. But again, outside of that, the fact that it is just some just having some campy fun sometimes and having a little bit of a horror romp, I think, it gets really, really serious. And it has very serious themes and messages in this, like not believing people or not wanting to speak out when it comes to sexual abuse. Things like poor versus rich in the culture war and how hard it is for people that are of different class structure to kind of, become friends because their parents kind of look down on it. So it has all that stuff, the coming of age stuff that I really, really enjoy in books like this. And I love that friendship between Abby and Gretchen. It's just one of those things that over the course of the book, you don't even really realize it until you get to the end of the book and all of a sudden you're being punched in the feelings and you're like, I had no idea that I was this invested in this friendship, because I think that Grady Hendrix is just a really, really good character writer. I mean, I think that's at least he's 1 for 1 so far, and I definitely want to try some more books from him, because I like the way he writes dialogue. That's always been one of the things I said I love about King, is Stephen King is able, no matter how old he gets, he can still write that dialogue, preteen characters or teenage characters, and it's just so good, so realistic, and it makes you think, yes, that's how we talk to each other at that age. Now, again, I grew up obviously shit talking with a bunch of boys. This is a couple of girls here, and there is a little bit of Heathers, I think, in there too, and that's one of my favorite movies ever. And so I think if you like Heathers and you like The Exorcist, and you kind of mash those two things together, it's kind of what you're going to get with this. It's a lot of fun, but it isn't like Goosebumps fun or Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of fun. It is not exactly like, you're not going to be shitting your pants. You're not going to be, hiding under the covers. You're not going to be like, what was that sound while you're reading it? But there are some parts that are pretty disturbing. So it actually does get quite horrific and more times than one. But the heart of the book is this friendship. And the last dozen pages or so, I will not lie, guys, I choked up a bit, because he wrote this relationship so well, and I was more attached than I realized that I was. So, guys, that's why it is my book of the month. Great, great coming-of-age horror story. 80s horror nostalgia. That seems to be a little subgenre now. But my best friend's exorcism. That's what my wife asked me if I said I was reading when I said that. My best friend's exorcism, book of the month for October of 2023. A spooky season champion. So Nick Cutter can't defend his title, but he was in that return match. How about some channel growth, guys? The usual patterns for October. I'm not going to try to drag you down too much here. Horror just continues to fall flat with my audience, apparently. Like, for example, that my best friend's exorcism. I almost said it again. Best friend's exorcism. That in the first 48 hours, you can track the analytics. That is the worst viewership I've had on a video since 2021. So yeah, okay, cool. I said I want to keep trying to push a little more horror on the channel. That's what makes it hard. I mean, I have 4 years of data now in October, and every month, guys, every year it's not a good month for me, because I do try to focus on horror, and my audience is not a fan. So I'm trying to say I'm going to litter that in over the course of the year now. So for a month, I'm not, neglecting viewers who are not into the genre at all. But I do love horror, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. And guys, I do still like doing book reviews, so I'll keep doing them. But for people who ask why I only do one a month anymore, that is why. That is why. So in the end, guys, I want to make content that people want to watch. And when you got 105,000 subscribers and less than 2,000 people watch a video, that is clearly not something that your audience wants to watch. So message received here. But let's look at the numbers. 1,957 new subscribers. That is down 742 from September. 41,500 views. Guys, that is down 77,000 from September. And 65,000 hours watched. That is down 26,000 from September. So yeah, 3 down arrows on those 3 categories I always tell you about. You always want to see those green arrows in that category. And when you get 3 down ones, it's kind of deflating as a content creator, like I said. But I do have 4 years of data in October now, and this does happen to me every year. So maybe year number 5 will be the breakout year for October. I don't know. We will find out. Let's take a peek, guys, at the most popular content that I put out this month. I did 15 videos, I did 1 live stream, and I did 2 shorts. Let's look at the big ones here. Obviously, my Kindle Scribe review was something that a lot of people were waiting for. That's sitting at 23,000 views as of this recording. I don't know why people trust my Kindle reviews so much, but apparently they do. And I mean, I had people just messaging me on Instagram, Twitter, emailing me just asking, have you done that Scribe review yet? I can't find it. People were really, really anxious because, they wanted to know if they need to get it on their Christmas list or not. And I kind of gave the review there and kind of compared it to the Oasis, which I still think is the best Kindle out there. But I talked about, if your lifestyle or your career or, if you're going to school or something like that, that might be something that you're more interested in. It might work better for you than it did for me. Watch that video if you want to know a little bit more about those things. My September 2023 book haul, no surprise there. Book hauls are always popular. 14,000 views. I continue to love book hauls because I think they get some of the best conversation that I get on this channel, because a lot of the things that people send me I haven't read yet, and I get a lot of feedback about those things down below. And I also get to help spread the love on some self-published and independent authors that are trying to get their name out there, and I'm always willing to help do that. I got a Why You Should Read out this month, and I was very, very proud of this, guys. This was The Bound and the Broken. That one has 12,000 views. I did get the help from the author, Ryan. He actually did the What Is It About section on that review for me. So it's one of my longer ones. It's like 30 minutes long. But guys, I poured my heart into that, like that introduction and stuff like that. Really good. And that's a series that I'm really, really high on. And it just really kind of opened my eyes that I was just missing some really, really great stuff by always avoiding self-pub. And that's this series that has got me to be like, okay, I'm going to try more self-published stuff, because a lot of my things that were holding me back from doing that were kind of foolish in hindsight. And I'm seeing now that like this is the most I've been into a new fantasy series since I started A Song of Ice and Fire, 25 years ago. So that's the highest compliment I can give. I'm just really just that into it. But now I'm at the point where I have to wait. And so I have to, message Ryan all the time and be like, hey, is there anything I can help you do to speed this up? Send you some crank, some Monster Energy drinks. What can I do to get you to help speed this up? Because it's the first time I've had to wait for the next book. But Bound and the Broken, guys, awesome series, and watch that video if you want to know why. Scariest Stephen King stories, that's 10,000 views. This is one where I'm taking a break on Into the Multiverse right now, because I wanted to kind of calm down on the rereads. I felt like I was just doing way too many of them. And so I said, I still want to try to get Stephen King content out. And the Stephen King question I get asked the most after where should I start with Stephen King is, well, what are his scariest books? So I kind of turned it into what are his scariest stories, because I did include novellas and short stories. Skeleton Crew got a lot of love on there. And guys, if you want to know what makes Stephen King scary and you don't want to invest in a 500 to 700 page book, Skeleton Crew, short story collection. They're all like 20 pages or less. You will have a blast. That is a great, great book, or a great collection of stories, and it'll show you why Stephen King was quite scary at that time period. And The Raft, guys, man, that story still gives me nightmares. Top 10 horror novels as of 2023. This was kind of an update. That one's sitting at 10,000 views. I did that video back in 2020, the first time I ever did a horror-themed month. And that one video was just kind of a last minute, hey, I've got some extra time, let me see what I can throw together. And what do you know? It's the video that's got the most views on my channel. So who knew that people were really, really interested when I can't get very many people interested in horror. For whatever reason, that video just really, really took off. But I want to do an update. And here's the thing is, a lot of people ask me to do updates, and I was like, I feel like I haven't read enough. I don't do that, guys. A lot of other booktubers, they'll update their top 10 books or top 10 fantasy series, top 10 horror, all that stuff. They'll redo those 3 or 4 times a year. For me, if it hasn't changed that much, I'm not going to redo it. So I felt like I had enough now where I could make some changes, and there were some big changes. I think there was 6 holdovers, and they kind of slid around in different spots, and there were 4 new ones, and a couple of books that kind of slid off that original list into honorable mentions. Well, it hasn't gone over well, but that's just the name of the game. But I like putting those lists together. I'm glad that people like to watch them, and hopefully they won't be too upset with some of the changes. It's been mostly positive feedback, because one of the biggest books that people in the comments of that 2020 video are like, where is this book at? And I was like, well, I haven't read it yet. Well, I have read it now, and it did make the list, and I'm happy to have done it. A couple of my favorites that didn't quite make it up here with these. I did my popular horror books I still want to read. This was the companion video to my popular sci-fi and my popular fantasy books that I still want to read. Just kind of looking at like some of those greatest hits that people are like shocked when you say you haven't read. So that's just kind of one of the ones I say I want to make sure I get those on my TBR here in the next year or two, and not try to keep them all just for the month of October. And then I did talk about Nothing with Josh over at Red Fury Books, and Josh is just like, he's for whatever, I think he's my twinner or something when it comes to our reading taste, because we're pretty dang close on what we like. He's a huge King fan. About the only difference is I think he adores Robin Hobb, and I just really, really like Robin Hobb. But outside of that, I feel like we pretty much share a brain when it comes to the books that we do enjoy. And just, again, super awesome guy, and I had a great time talking with him. I'm ashamed it took this long, because I felt like we've been talking for like 3 years now. And I finally got him on the channel, and I was very happy to do it. So check that out if you got a chance. I might be moving some of those Talk About Nothings over to the podcast in case you guys don't know about it. I do have a podcast. I only put the long form discussion stuff on there. I don't put every video on there. But the long form discussion stuff, I know that a lot of people prefer those in a podcast format. So if you're looking for that, you can just search Mike's Book Reviews on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, any of those. It's all on there. So goals for November, guys. I guess with this is just beginning those final stages of The Expanse and Realm of the Eldlings. I'm into the last portion of those series and into the final act, you would say. I got 2 Expanse books left. I got about 2.5 Realm of the Eldlings books left. And it's got to that point where it's very bittersweet right now, where it's like I'm excited, because you're always excited, I think, when you can kind of get another big series kind of checked off. But it's the part where I'm starting to get sad, being like, wow, I'm really going to get to that point where I can't just say, oh, I'm going to grab the next book. That's really, really sad. And I'm kind of already feeling that reading Fool's Assassin right now. I'm already kind of dreading what she's going to do to these characters. And with Expanse, I'm pretty sure my core 4 of the Rocinante family is probably not going to make it. And I'm very, very anxious / hesitant to get there because, I feel like you're part of that family now, just like you are with Fitz and the Fool. That just feels like family at this point. It's very, very tough to say goodbye. And that's the thing about series that long, is even through the nitpicks and things that you don't really like, you think about, wow, this is just like family. There's things about your family you can't stand, right? But you'd miss the hell out of them when they're gone. And I think that's kind of how I feel about these 2 series. So that's really kind of my focus here. The last couple of months of the year, I'm going to try to finish both those before New Year. Kind of clear the path for some things I got next year. I want to start some new series and stuff, and I'll be talking about that soon, guys. I'll be talking about some of those new series I plan to begin in 2024. So just kind of like start working on some of that, looking ahead to 2024 and wrapping up 2023, all those kind of things that everybody does in November and December, kind of start getting that stuff together, but really just enjoy the holidays. I got a couple of vacations because I had some use it or lose it vacation time, so I definitely used it. So I'm going to have a couple of holiday quick vacations here in the next couple of months, and maybe that'll help me get some of these things off of my list. But guys, that was the month of October. I had a blast with spooky season this year. I felt like it was much, much better than last year, where I felt like I had way more misses than hits. This year, I felt like it was really, really good picks. So thank you for everybody who helped me pick those books out. People who read along with me, and people who, just hung out and said, hey, cool, I love this spooky season thing. I get some of those horror vibes. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I'm grateful for you guys, and I hope that you guys are continuing to enjoy yourselves here. So drop in the comments, guys. Let me know what you read in October, what your book of the month was, what's your favorite or least favorite thing I talked about this month. That stuff's all good down below. So hit me there, guys, and I'll talk to you then.